Hello, Human Hive. I'm here today with my new friend Daniel, who we want to talk to you about a really exciting new project that we are collaborating on. And I thought much better than me talking about it and getting it all wrong, I wanted to bring Daniel on because Daniel is the founder of this very exciting new platform that we're being invited to collaborate on. So I'm not going to waste too much time by talking about me or us. I'm going to turn straight over, and I want to introduce Daniel and ask you to tell us who you are and what we're doing together.
Sure. Well, my name is Daniel Allen. I go by Dan. You can call me Dan. I am 38. I have a couple of kids and a dog, and 16 years in the design field, and UX, game design, a bunch of different creative kind of pursuits. And we're here today to talk about a project called Voy, V-O-Y. V as in Victor. It is a project. It is a different kind of community and communication platform that democratizes information, anonymizes information, makes it very easy to get direct human answers to all of your hardest questions. And we'll go into how it exactly does that in the upcoming questions. So I'm excited to collaborate with the Human Hive, and it's going to be a great fit.
Yeah, so we connected through LinkedIn. I think you reached out to Kate because you saw what we were doing. Where do you think the connections are with Voy and the Human Hive?
Well, I think you're trying to do physically what I'm trying to do digitally. So it's a nice kind of parallel there. So what I'm working towards is a global network that I call the Human Hive Net. I wrote a paper called the Human Hive Net back in 2018, and this project is intended to form communities called hives, much as the Human Hive organization has done. And these communities are just groups of people bound together by some commonality, and then enabling people from around the world to pose questions to that hive, and using software to reach consensus through sort of a mini focus group, like I also call it a swarm event, and that kind of allows the entire community to answer back with one voice to a question with a really intelligent answer. And this will, and there's my dog back there, by the way. Hey, Gooby, say hi. Say hi. He wants out. I'm going to let him out of the room here in a second. So the idea is that any of your members of the Human Hive that join will be able to ask any question that a machine could not answer. It could be a translation request that requires a lot of nuance. It could be a question about something medical or something legal, or something mechanical, or just theoretical or creative. You can use it to brainstorm. You can use it to create a headline or to solve a problem. So there's many different applications of this concept. You can think of it like texting with a focus group, perhaps, or perhaps like a search engine for the brains of the people that you're that are in that hive. So those are just a couple of ways that I use to kind of help people conceptualize how this works.
And I know that when we first talked about this, you're very passionate about supporting people who might be in poverty or going through challenging circumstances. And you had some really exciting ideas about how this platform could be used to democratize knowledge.
Yes. Yes. So the idea for the project actually began out of the idea of what if there was an application that provided a universal basic income to everyone, and how would that work? Where would that money come from? So the project in its current iteration, I'm calling it Voy Alpha, and it is a bot that lives on a communication platform called Discord. And this is a I'd say it's a feature light version of what we're building towards in the 1.0. And so the final ultimate vision of the project is to provide a way for everyone to contribute their knowledge to humanity and get paid for it. So I had a friend describe it as the Uber of focus groups. Um, so yeah, but the idea is, to put it quite simply, you get a notification in on your phone. You play a little swarm event with other members of the Hive that you're a part of. If you're a part of the Hive called humanitarians, perhaps somebody is asking a question to humanitarians, and they have, let's say, bid $1 to get that answer. You answer it with 30 other people. That dollar gets distributed among 30 people, and then you will earn a residual on that as well. So as more people, perhaps it costs $1 to commission it originally, but then it costs only a quarter to buy the answer later on, and then that quarter gets distributed among the people who answered the question, and so on. So over the course of a year, 2 years, you can earn residual income off of just that one answer that you participated in. So it's going to be a way for people in very remote places where economies have dried up. Perhaps they're refugees and there's no work, but they have all this knowledge. Perhaps they're educated, or maybe they know a lot about a certain sports team, or they know how to cook, or they know how to farm, or they know how to translate. There's all kinds of different things that humans are really good at that robots still don't understand. And I think there always will be sort of a lot of edge cases that robots don't understand. And those are the kinds of areas that Voy will work really well with. So, it's going to be humans helping other humans. Of course, some of the requests coming in will be from AIs that want to, that don't understand things, so they're going to need human intervention, or perhaps software. Dumb software can become smart software. So, if you have, let's say, some kind of software that shows you some analytics, perhaps it takes a screenshot and sends that analytics slice of data to a group of analysts for some human interpretation. So that's just to give you a top level glimpse at all the possibilities. But what it ultimately amounts to is you as a human retain the dignity of human consciousness, such that you're not monetizing. We're not monetizing your ability to sit and watch ads. We're not monetizing your ability to sit and do mundane tasks. We're letting you monetize your actual intelligence and letting you contribute things that you know about and things you're passionate about to the rest of humanity, and building this kind of global knowledge base that other humans can benefit from. So you probably have a lot of knowledge in your head that's locked up that other people around the world could really greatly benefit from, and that's the idea, is to free that knowledge and to make it easy for others to access it.
So when we've been talking, the potential of this is huge.
Yes.
We were thinking about translation, for example. I think the other day when we were coming up with some ideas for different swarms, different hives, we suddenly thought about, well, how could we use this as a way to very quickly translate from one language to another? And some of the more obscure languages that we often come across within the refugee crisis, for example, that there isn't ready translation for. This could be an amazing way to help people communicate more quickly. But I think we've also been thinking about the context-specific aspects of this, is that if you're in a crisis zone, somewhere like a refugee camp, and there's a specific question that comes up about a context, you could pop onto the Voy platform and ask the world about how to address that very specific contextual issue.
Yes. Because the answers are provided by humans, you can provide all the context you want. Yeah, okay, Gooby's getting antsy, so let me just let him out real quick.
Sure. We'll pause for a moment. Okay, so, back on.
Yes, so to finish the question, humans have general intelligence. We have the ability to take in information with very little context and piece things together and make sense out of what's being asked. you could ask a very seemingly simple question to an AI and it can get quickly confused. You could ask it something simple like, um, you know, what does chocolate taste like? And you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't know. It could provide algorithmic answers based on perhaps what other people have written about chocolate. But if I ask that to you, I'm sure you could sit there and, come up with some kind of flowery explanation for how chocolate tastes, because you've experienced it. You have a physical body, and you have chemicals inside, and so you can provide all of that context that an AI can't provide. So by asking a question to a swarm of humans, you will you will get an answer back that understands the context of as much as you've provided anyway. So you'll be able to, ask and re-ask questions as you uh, uncover more ways to formulate your question. But the idea is you can be vague, you can be specific, and the swarm will work with the information you give it, because you're just dealing with a group of human minds at the end of the day.
So the
So
answer that comes back is like the aggregate of all of the answers that have been given by that swarm of people?
it's like the best answer from the group. So it's a group brainstorm. So if you can imagine like a funnel, kind of, you might ask a question. Let's just pretend like you asked that. Let's pretend like you asked. Let's pick a practical question. Like, what's a question maybe perhaps that you would ask to help a refugee in a refugee situation?
Um, how do I process my asylum in the UK?
Okay, that's a great question. So let's say that you asked that question about processing your asylum specific to the UK. So you might ask that question into a geographic hive, if one exists, like the UK, or you might more probably specifically want to ask humanitarians, or if there is a refugees hive or something like that. Um, you'd want to pick groups that are relevant to that question, if possible. And then when the group comes together to swarm that answer, this is where that funnel metaphor kind of comes in. You can imagine, let's say that there's 30 people participating in this, answering this question. It's only going to take them about a minute or two to answer it as a group. So 30 people throw their answers out there into the possibility space, and that's the large end of the funnel. And then they're each talking to a bot. So the bot has an advantage that humans don't have. It can be in many places at the same time. So that bot can be talking to 30 people at the same time, no problem. So the bot takes those answers and then anonymizes them and sends them back to the group as something that they can they can thumbs up. So then every member of the group gets to see the whole list of answers and can thumbs up the ones that look like good answers. So maybe someone gave a step by step, you need to apply here, you need to do this, you need to do that, and maybe it's 5 steps or something. And then someone else just wrote a little paragraph, someone else wrote a sentence, and the group just looks at those and decides which ones of these answers do I think best represent the answer to this question. Is it factually correct? Does it seem to make sense? And so on. There's so many abstract things that people will judge an answer as being a good answer, and then once that's finished, the bot then takes all those the likes, and figures out, okay, what's the most liked few set of answers, what are the, let's say, top 3 answers, and then it turns those back around and gives everyone the ability to cast one more final vote. So you get to pick your top liked answer, and that forces everyone to sort of converge on just one answer that they can be happy with. And then they pick that one answer, and then that gets sent back to the person who asked the question. And what you've gotten then is the collective intelligence of 30 people, because not only have they, thrown out lots of ideas, but by liking the ones that they've liked, they've also acknowledge the intelligence of other answers, and then by picking a final one, they've sort of settled on a solution. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how that answer is formed, and that's why the answers come back so smart, is because it's it takes a smart person out of that group to provide the best answer, but then thankfully it doesn't require as much intelligence to identify the best answer. You might not have been able to think of the best answer, but you can look at answers and compare them and see which ones that you believe are more factually correct and more accurate, whatever. And then as a group, you just work together to find that answer. So we've tested it, of course, already, and we're getting ready to launch the alpha, and it works really well. So in fact, let's see. If I was, I might pull it up while you're asking the next question.
Great.
Or
So we can have a look at it.
actually, I was going to say I have the first question and answer pair that we generated. The first question and answer pair that we generated, I asked the question to a swarm: how would you describe what it's like to swarm? And the swarm answered back, it's easy, you just answer a question with a confidence of 100%. So it's very succinct answer to my question. But that just gives you an idea. That answer didn't come back from just one person. That came back from a group of people, and just gives you an idea of the intelligence of how these answers come back.
So I understand how that works with a kind of an opinion question like that.
Mm-hmm.
But with the question we were asking before, for example, how do I process my asylum in the UK? What happens if nobody in that group has given the full answer, but various people within the group have given parts of the answer? Are you able to go back and edit and add, or is it only about the aggregate of which one everybody thinks is the closest to the answer?
It's only which one that's closest. So the idea is that the group as a whole should be able to learn from the intelligence of everyone else in the group as they progress. So a hive should become smarter and smarter over time as it answers questions. And so let's say, for example, you asked that question and the answer that came back, I mean, at the end of the day, let's say that there's 30 people in a swarm. The answer that you get back is probably going to be a lot better than what you could have come up with yourself, because you've consulted quite a number of people. But the individuals in that swarm will certainly learn from the answers that other people proposed. And the next time they get asked that question, they might throw out a different answer or an improved answer from the previous time they were asked that question.
Uh-huh.
So what you're really getting is what's inside those people's brains at that moment when they answered that question. It's a slice in time. And so because of that, the timeliness factor will matter. You could ask the same question every day for a week and get potentially different answer every time, because it's the zeitgeist matters. Like what is the time period that we live in right now, and what's happening right this second. So you may ask a question like that, and some law may get passed today or tomorrow that changes the perception of how to get that through. And so the answer might change drastically in a day because of something that just happened,
Yeah.
today. So, but as far as the accuracy of the answers, you still have to keep in mind that these are humans answering these questions. So there's I guess the way it can only be as accurate as humans can be. So if the question is recite pi out 25 numbers, like there might be somebody in the group that can do it, but the majority of people probably can't, and you might get you might get pi out to 5 or 10 digits or something like that, or you might just get an answer like that's too difficult. But you know,
We got Alexa for that.
right, exactly. So this is designed not so much to answer the kinds of questions that robots are good at answering, which require lots of memory, or um, if you're asking what, you probably like, but the thing is, all the information that's on the internet, it came out of people's heads,
Yeah.
so really the internet is kind of a collective ledger of all the things humanity knows. um, so in theory, if people know those things, and some people are like encyclopedias, they really know a lot of things, and all it takes is one person in that swarm to be an encyclopedia to provide a really good answer, and the rest of the people to recognize that that's the right answer for a really good answer to come back. So but like I said, at the end of the day, you can think of this like a focus group or something like that. When you talk to a focus group, you're going to get the information that's in those people's heads. You're not necessarily going to get the information that's out on the wider internet.
Sure, but I think what's awesome about this is that it is so immediate and so human. Is that you can ask questions right in real time, right now. Anything that's on the internet is usually, it's been uploaded before, so we don't know how accurate it is compared to what's going on in this precise moment.
Right.
And I think it's exciting for us as well, because you can really get into communities you wouldn't necessarily be able to reach. You can get information out of people's heads who are going through experiences right now that you wouldn't be able to ask if it was just uploaded onto the internet.
Yes. There's a lot of complexities to getting information, not only in internal systems like in your company, but also in external systems like on Google. Internally with your company, you have to deal with hierarchy, politics, not knowing people, writing lengthy emails, sitting in long meetings to get answers. All of these things that we all have to do to get human answers to questions or to reach some kind of consensus. And then you go out on like Google, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. So if the algorithm's been tampered with, which does happen sometimes, you might get response back that has been manipulated. It's also going to be heavily customized to who you are and where you are and so on. So this kind of creates an echo chamber effect situation where you're being fed information that the algorithm believes will make you the most happy, or so on, that that it thinks is most relevant, but may not be the truth, or may not be exactly what you need. Let's say it this way. It's it may be ice cream, but not your vegetables. You might need your vegetables. You might need the raw. You might need the raw truth. And that's when you would consult other humans. So you could think of it as like any situation where you wouldn't ask a search engine, but you would actually go and ask a human. That's where this tool lives in that territory. Is once you walk away from the search engine and you have something to ask another human, that's the kind of thing. And so you don't always have the humans on hand that you'd like to ask. You don't always have access to a lawyer or a medical professional, or if I look at some of the hives that we've got prepared, tech experts, perhaps other home farmers or finance experts, like I said, medical pros, medical researchers. So we also want to use this as a way to connect cure researchers together too. So if there are people working on the COVID cure, or other related or different kinds of viruses or genetic disorders, giving them a way to quickly connect with other researchers and ask them questions, show them data, and so on. This will be a way to do that, and since it's all anonymous, you don't have to worry about I guess all of the gates and stuff that are in the way. In the scientific community, and in schools, there are a lot of barriers in the way of asking questions or proving ideas, and this completely breaks down all those barriers. So now you can just ask a direct question and get an answer.
It's really exciting. I mean, there's so many obvious connections about why we're excited about this with the human hive. So much about what we do is unlocking the skill sets of human beings and enabling them to share them in different ways, and then seeing what happens as a consequence of that without having too much of an outcome in mind. I just want to come back to something, we've talked about this a few times. You've mentioned it in the last thing that you talked about in terms of algorithms and the way that maybe we don't trust our social media platforms or our news platforms so much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a bit more about how Voy is different, how it can protect people, how it's not going to be used to exploit people's personal information? Yeah. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's anonymous from both ends. You ask a question anonymously, you answer questions anonymously, and the way that this happens is, first of all, at least from the standpoint of our alpha on Discord, you just create an account on Discord. You can create a dummy account to start with, so you don't have to provide personal information to join this community. But then beyond that, you're talking directly to a bot, and the bot doesn't share any information about you as an individual to the other people in the swarm who you are swarming with. And if you ask a question, the bot doesn't say who asked the question either. It just says, here's a question that's been asked. So there's all these layers of anonymity that happen, between you and the information. And the emphasis from the beginning of how this was designed is to focus on the accuracy of the information, not on the individuals who are providing it. Now, obviously, that will raise questions in people's minds, like, well, how do you improve the accuracy of the information? And in the final version that we're building towards, there will be verified hives and unverified hives. Verified hive could be a group of verified journalists from a certain reputable newspaper, or it could be a group of researchers from a certain research group. And that group would have verified the emails of the people who have joined that hive, and then that when you ask a question to those people, you're getting an answer from those people. There was something else in what you asked that I'm trying to come back to, that I wanted to mention, but I went off on a tangent in my own mind a little bit. What did I miss? What did I miss in the question that you asked there? Because I feel like I missed something.
Well, I was asking about. We started by saying that many people are distrustful of the platform
right
at the moment. Yeah. So what makes it different?
So I covered the anonymity, but I didn't cover the emergence of fake news. And so, I mean, I guess fake news has always been around, but it has become a centerpiece in our zeitgeist. We're thinking about it. We're talking about it. So what a lot of it comes down to is fact checking. And so what Voy will enable you to do is to reach outside of your echo chamber. So you are going to ask a community of medical professionals, or a community of biohackers or programmers or tech experts or whatever. And these people, yes, they all live in their own little bubbles of social media, on Facebook. But when you get all of these people together to answer a question, their bubbles are broken. Like, they're all together to answer this question from their own perspective. And so that's going to be important to getting truthful answers. There's truth when you have anonymity. There's a lot more truth present, because people feel the safety and the security to provide truthful answers. And when you can ask experts questions, you're getting a lot closer to the truth as well. And if you give those experts anonymity, wow, that's a double whammy. So if you give journalists anonymity, or if you give medical experts anonymity, they have the complete freedom to say what really is the situation. But in the future, what I envision us being able to do with this platform is having verified hives that act as a third party to validate the truthfulness of information.
Uh-huh.
So they would be able to assess news as it comes in, and this would perhaps be a group of journalists, perhaps other people combined into a hive that I guess, look, at the end of the day, someone has to deem those as people as reputable. So whatever that means, whoever does that, but at least making it transparent who those people are, without getting into any individuals, but as far as who those people are as a group. Um, you can imagine like Twitter verified accounts, kind of. Twitter has verified this person exists or that they're a real person. Um, similar to that. Um, but I think I was thinking about this very problem. It's like at the end of the day, you can only get as good as the best human intelligence and artificial intelligence working together to fact check or to verify something. If something fools that, then congratulations, you've just fooled the smartest intelligence in the world. Like, you know what I mean? So humans have good bullshit detectors, and we're good at sniffing out, not all of us, but at least those of us that are more attuned to fact checking and things. And AI can be used to fill in the gap, to identify perhaps subtle patterns in the way something is worded that we might not catch. So if you could combine those two intelligences together, to account for the pieces that humans are good at identifying and that AIs are good at identifying, and work together towards being able to identify whether a piece of news is real or not, whether it's from a legitimate source, and whether the facts in the piece of news square with other events that have happened. Then you've got the best you can possibly get, probably. And will we develop things that outpace that? As far as like fake news that can fool that, I'm sure some of it will get through. What the humans have on their side is chronology. Like, we have a collective understanding of the past and the present, and because of that, we can cross-reference things we've experienced with what's happening right now. And it's possible a historical event has been modified on the internet, but perhaps a group of humans that went through it, let's take Holocaust denial, for example. You have a group of people on the internet who deny that the Holocaust happened, but those of us who have gone and seen the physical artifacts of the Holocaust, gone to the Holocaust Museum, or have talked to survivors, have experienced physical evidence that the Holocaust did happen. And that would be a situation where humans could validate something where perhaps AIs would have incorrect information, or not the latest, not the best information, or so on. But then there may be other situations where an AI knows some research data that came out of Antarctica that no human really knows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where humans and AIs need to collaborate and work together. There's a lot of fear about the singularity and what's going to happen in the future when AI becomes smarter than us. And I think the true answer to that problem is we have to work together with AIs, um, to keep up, because there's certain areas of thinking that humans just don't naturally. We don't have large memories. We don't have the capacity to process large amounts of math and data, raw data. We do process a lot of data, but we can't process the kind of raw data that a computer can process. So by using the best that AIs can offer, but also the best that humans can offer, and collaborating, we can keep up with the pace of AI, and we can hold AI accountable in a way, for the things that it's starting to say and do, because who knows what rogue AIs will start to try to who knows what direction. I think people are, in a lot of ways, too trusting, and they will trust their Alexa or their Google to give them the right information, or steer them in the right direction. And the problem there is those are owned by corporations, and those corporations have agendas. So you have to see through what's going on there. And in our case, we, at least now anyways, are not owned by anybody. We are our own group of people forming this project, and we've written it into our bylaws, so to speak, that we will not be selling any voting shares for our company. We're allocating 10% of investment shares, but they're non-voting shares, so that we can do some fundraising, but not allow corporations to control what we do. And we're not going to be selling the company. But we're going to be building lots of checks and balances into what we're doing, and we already have. But we're gonna keep that as a model that we continue to do, so that we don't end up in one of these situations where we are running a global intelligence, but then we are, as a corporation, are controlling the information. Like, one of our tenets is that all the data that we generate is immutable. So you can't go in and tamper with a question and answer combo that was asked. It is what it is. It's there. It was asked. It will remain as a historical record, and others will be able to go and look at it. And we think that's really important, to retain the truthfulness of information, and to allow people to go back and fact check things, and what really was said. And then and the last thing I'll mention is we're kind of trying to build a protocol in a way. So I mean, the HiveNet, as I've conceived of it, you could imagine it in a way like the internet. It's a connection of human minds, in hives. But eventually the idea would be that other people could build software that communicates with the HiveNet. So it's not something that one company owns or one person owns, but just like the internet, it's something that anybody can access if they have the right tools that can understand that data.
So it sounds a little bit like blockchain of information, or blockchain of knowledge.
Yes, and there have been things that have been built that I guess that are trying to do that very thing. So we're not the first ones to have something of that idea, but I think looking around at what exists out there, I think we're the first ones to marry the idea of sort of like social network with focus groups, with a global intelligence network, kind of all together in one package.
It seems like an incredibly pertinent idea for this very moment that we're in. Just we're dealing with a global pandemic, but we're seeing that many of our leaders are politicizing that. And how can you trust the information that we're being told? Something like this, if you had access to the minds of people all over the world, you could really have a much better handle on what's going on than trusting the mouthpieces that might have a vested interest in telling you something else.
Absolutely. And I think in countries where information is being manipulated or suppressed, it will be a way for, if they have access to this system, assuming their government doesn't block access to it, then they can, it will be one of many other sources that people can go to try to suss out the truth,
So obviously you're at the beginning of the journey. Can you give us an idea about what your roadmap is, and then also tell us how our members can get involved and how we want to work together in the immediate future?
Yes. So this project started in August of 2018. I wrote a white paper called the Human HiveNet. And then it was the following February, so February of 2019, that I conducted the first proof of concept. I actually used Google Forms to simulate that movement of information through that pipeline. And then we are just rounding the corner right now around our alpha, which we're calling proof of concept number 2. And that's the Discord bot that gets us to the swarming and Hive join. You can join hives and things like that, but it's still a local. I'd say local. It's kind of like it's a um, it's a social network kind of situation. Not really. It's not really a social network, but I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's kind of like it's like it's not closed either. It's a limited community, I guess the way I would say it. It's like you can join this community. There's 30 or so hives or something like that to join, and you're going to be able to communicate in this one place. The final thing that we're building towards, which we've set as, say, our timeline is like 2 years from now, because it's a much bigger, more robust kind of piece of software. But that's going to be the standalone application that'll be on your phone. That'll be able to send you notifications when you've gotten an answer back from your question, or when you are being invited to participate in a swarm. And it will have more game-like elements. So I'm kind of pitching that as it's the game that pays you to play it. So yeah, so it's really designed to be fun. I'm a game designer, and so the 1.0 is going to be a game, and that's really going to be a big part of its draw, is that not only are you participating in these communities and providing answers to questions and brainstorming together, but you're also playing this game and earning experience points and customizations, but also you're earning money. And so I'm trying to change what it means to work, so the idea that you could play and that's your job. Your job is to play all day. So I think that will be really attractive to people to be able to do that. And the standalone application will allow us to have this global HiveNet situation where you're not limited to just these 30 hives that we've curated in this one platform. It's sort of like every instance, every like there will be a Voy instance that has a bunch of hives. There will be instances on, maybe Georgia Tech has a bunch of hives that are available, and maybe, all these different places, companies and organizations and nonprofits and schools and whatever, they will all have hives on them of experts and whatever, and they will all be able to communicate together using this one application. So that's the final vision. So what you can do now is you can go to projectvoy.com, and you'll see a link there for joining our alpha. We will send you an invite to the Discord server. If you haven't used Discord before, it's like Slack or it's like Microsoft Teams. It's one of these like group forum kind of bulletin board type communications. And
it's gaming a lot, isn't it? It's kind of a gaming platform.
It's popular among developers and gamers, but it is growing in popularity as just a social networking platform on its own, in its own right. And we're kind of using it differently than you're supposed to use it, or than the way most people use it, I guess is the way I would say it. I would say there's a way you're supposed to use it, but the way we're using it is you join this server and you're not posting on a forum like forum posts. You're just talking to a bot. But then that communication with the bot is what generates the data that gets put into the server. The bot shares the results of the swarm data, swarm results. So you have the ability to go into, the Medical Pros Hive and look at the questions and answers that people are asking that group in a chronological view, and then talk to the bot and then pose a question to that hive if you want. So it's a little different. Like you're going to spend a lot of time talking to Norm, the bot, and a lot of what he says is written by me. So there you go. But I think hopefully you'll find him to be a friendly assistant, and he sort of acknowledges that he's an AI, but he communicates with other humans, and his goal is to help the humans that are participating to brainstorm together and to reach consensus, and then he just sort of he just works as the liaison between different humans. So yeah.
Awesome. And for us as well at the moment, I think, when we've been talking the other day, the real value of Voy, this platform, is the people who are in it. So to grow it, to make it, and to learn about it, and to be able to take it to its full potential, we need as many different kinds of people with as many different kinds of knowledge and backgrounds as possible. And
Yes.
here in the Human Hive, we have a growing community of people who are interested in humanitarian aid, interested in music, interested in education, interested in all sorts of different things. So this is a great, it's a great test ground to try out how this might work. And I think, Daniel, it's right, isn't it, that you want people to start to interact with it and to learn from the people who are using it, get them to ask you questions. Obviously, there are many, many more questions than I've been able to ask you today that neither of us would have thought of, that hopefully members of the Human Hive will come up with. So what we want to do, we're going to open up a group within our Human Hive, and we'll put all the links and everything into that group. So if you're interested in participating in the development of Voy for the moment, then join us in that group. I'm going to invite Daniel into the Human Hive as well, so that he can interact with you there. And we'll take the experiment forward and see where it goes.
Fantastic. I'm excited to work with the Human Hive group, and yeah, it sounds like your group has a lot to offer to the human race, and so my goal is to help get that information out of people's brains into the wider sphere, so that everyone can benefit.
It's amazing. We're so excited to be part of this and to be supporting you on this journey. We feel very, very similar to you in so many different ways about how we want to help the planet to evolve, how we want to empower people all over the place, how we want to connect people up. So it's really exciting. I really, really encourage anybody here in the Human Hive to take a look. I'm going to put a link to Daniel's website so you can learn a bit more. There's a couple of really nice little videos there, which makes it really clear about what this is about, and a bit more about the potential of where this could be going. But we really, really want to hear your opinions. Like, after hearing this interview, what are the first questions that come up for you? Do you have any concerns? Do you have any exciting ideas that you think this could be used for that we may not have already thought of? Do you have any places that you think it would be useful to introduce this? Do you have other communities that you think would like to get involved with the development side here and be part of this, what do you call it, your alpha stage? So all those things. So do please come back to us, and Daniel will be in the Human Hive as well, so you can ask him direct. And we'll see, maybe we'll have another interview in a couple of weeks' time to answer some of those questions live. But yeah, get involved.
Fantastic.
Daniel, anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yes, if you'd like to help us with our project, we do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Project Voy. If you haven't been to Patreon, patreon.com/Project Voy. And even if you can contribute $3 a month, which is our lowest patron tier, that will still be helpful. We have not taken investment money yet, for strategic reasons. We've been careful about where we would take money from and things, but this is a way for the community as a whole to come together around the idea and help us fund the development of this project. So check out our Patreon. There's a lot, like Darren said, there's a lot of videos on the Patreon. There's a lot of links to articles I've written about this and things, so you can kind of dig in deeper.
Great, amazing. So it's been fantastic to speak to you, and every time I talk to you, I learn more about this project and more about the potential of it.
Yeah.
Before we go,
yes.
So I know other people will ask, because I asked you this the other day.
Sure.
Voy. Tell us about the origins of the name Voy, because I love it as a kind of a science fiction geek. I like where this has come from as well.
Sure. I get asked that question sometimes, and I always feel like the answer is going to be disappointing to people because it doesn't really. Well, it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really matter what it means, and I think like if you look at other brands, like we would, you know, who asks like what does Apple mean? Well, it's just a name, but you know, it in different languages, voy means different things. In Spanish, it means to go. In French, it means to see, or it's a root word to see. So but you've probably seen it in words like voyage or even voyeur, and I chose it as for more abstract reasons than that. It's easy to say. It looks the logo kind of came at the same time as the name. So if you look at the logo, you'll get a sense for different things I was thinking about that relate to this project. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That might be disappointing. As Thanos said, reality can often be disappointing. um,
No, I think it's great. I love the linguistic
oh,
element.
did we lose you?
Oh, can you hear me? Hello.
There you are.
I'm
Lost
here.
you for a second there. You think what was it? What were you saying? You thought what?
Oh, I love where it's come from linguistically, and part of me because I'm a Star Trek geek. I always think
Okay.
I always think of Voyager.
Yeah, Voyager. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think having done a lot of brand design in the past, I've realized that the brand is going to be defined by the experience people have with it. So when they try out the project, when they try out the software, and they have an experience, then they're going to associate that with the name and everything, and that's all going to kind of come together as one thing. So um, I that's why I no longer get as hung up on the name I'm going to name something as I used to, as long as it's not something awful like diarrhea or something that gives people a negative connotation. It's usually okay if it doesn't sound amateurish or disgusting, then people can be okay with it. So yeah.
So yes. So hop on the voyage. Come and
Yes.
take part, and we really look forward to seeing your comments and interacting with you about this really soon. Take care.
Thank you. Likewise. Oh, I did think of one more thing. I'll leave it with this. I also, in my mind, I kind of think of how we're all these little tiny people on this rock just flying through space, you know? And to me, it's like the Earth is our spaceship, kind of, you know, as we hurtle through space. So we're kind of all on a voyage together, right? So this is about it's about the evolution of our species into into something that has much more communication between ourselves, you know, as we kind of evolve into a next level intelligence or whatever that means. It's our voyage through that process or through space. So that's something else I was kind of like thinking about as well.
I can't top that. That's a great place to end.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Darren, for the time. I appreciate it. And thank you for those who are watching. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Brilliant. See you soon. Bye.
All right. Take care.